we're logged into the 25th day of January. And of course, we just are moving into that deeper end of the month when, of course, you've got to keep looking at interest rate decisions by a number of central bankers around the world. Today, we're going to hear the decisions from the Monetary Policy Committee meeting of the South African Reserve Bank. And of course, in Europe, the European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde, will be speaking on interest rate decision for Eurozone later today. So we're getting into that season towards the end of the month. But let's check in through the markets very quickly. The Nigerian stock markets took it to another notch higher to above 100,000 level for the first time in 63 years of the Nigerian stock market. 3% yesterday with the big names in industrial goods, cement, Dangote Cement, Boa Cement, Boa Foods, and a few names in the banking sector, as well as consumer goods. All that in play as we saw 1.6 trillion naira addition to the total market value of the Nigerian exchange Wednesday. The BRVM softened by 39 basis points. The Egyptian market came back, clawed back a bit of the earlier losses on Tuesday to finish off better by 29 basis points. The Nairobi stock market down by 0.5%, while the GSE finished very strongly at 1.34% in the green territory. Just all that ahead of today as inflation came in yesterday for South Africa, tracking the month of November, by the way, the best since the month of August last year. Again, this is giving a whole lot of firepower to see how the MPC will decide later today. That's repo rate decision is in everyone's focus. Let's take on to the East Africa, where we've got a couple of headline news coming through with the International Monetary Fund not comfortable with President Ruto's decision to reintroduce a fuel subsidy. In the meantime, the World Bank is upgrading Kenya's GDP growth rate to 5.2%. That's a whole lot bigger than a few other peers within the region and outside the Eastern Corridor. But Kenya is looking to raise about $430 million via infrastructure bond sale, which was announced yesterday. The market is taking that is onboarding that very quickly. The government needs so much money it can get through various sources to support the fiscal deficit and balance. In Uganda, the authorities have assured depositors of their money as a schedule of payments to depositors of the collapsed EFC Uganda Limited was announced yesterday by the CEO of the Uganda Depositors Fund, the agency of the government responsible for handling that. The central bank announced earlier in the week that EFC Uganda Limited has been wound down, going to liquidation, and its operating license been withdrawn. East African community and Europe trade deals is clashing with Kenya's ambition for trade, not only with Europe, but also with the rest of the Eastern corridor, as well as UK and a few other international bilateral trade partners. Keep all that in mind. Then, of course, you've got some news coming through this morning. Let's get on to West Africa. Let's look in very quickly because we've got a lot of grounds to cover. Nigeria's Central Bank governor says yesterday at the launch of a macroeconomic report by the Economic Summit Group that Nigeria's inflation will dip to 21.4% in 2024. He also spoke about the fact that the Naira is now being undervalued. So all of that is going into the social media this overnight, and everyone's asking what else are we expecting to hear from the central bank when the monetary policy meeting meets later next month, February 26th and 27th. Nigeria is looking to sell about 5 of its NIPV, that's the independent power plants, for about $1 billion US. The discussion is still private as we speak. News sources say that we're looking at about $1.1 billion or something very competitive for those assets. It's going to be the first major asset sale if it's carried out very soon within the current administration that took office on May 29th of 2023. Cote d'Ivoire has now floated $2.5 billion in Eurobond, 210 or 2033 and 2037. The first $1.1 billion is attracting about 7.625%, while the second is 8.25%. And Ghana's inflation is expected to dip to about 22.4% this month when we have the numbers that should be out in the next couple of days. While Togo says repaying Sukuk debt next month, that should be about 12.7 billion CFA franc. What else are you looking at this morning as we get Thursday, the 4th day of the week started? In Southern Africa, and I'm just talking about the SCRB decision later today. The consumer data came in yesterday, we're expecting the PPI also for December to be released. Perhaps that will help the South African Central Bank to hold interest rates unchanged. Bank of America is forecasting interest rate cut sometime in July. How the decision will pace out, we'll see that later today. Saudi Arabia is looking to import beef and lamb products from South Africa after that 20-year ban. And the DP World deal with Mozambique is now being approved. The port expansion, $2 billion, is on the table between from the DP World in UAE to Mozambique in Southern Africa, and that's been approved. And we're going to see how this expansion of the ports in Mozambique will take place. Go up north to Kenya. Kenya is also looking to build an additional port to Mombasa and the other existing facility to take care of influx of cargo. Again, the whole corridor of the Indian Ocean to the east is being focused on by key countries within that regions: Mozambique, Tanzania, and of course, the big brother, Kenya, as well as a few others to the Horn of Africa. In the meantime, UK and Zimbabwe says they've entered a new trade agreement. It'll be interesting to see what the new deal is with President Emerson Mnangagwa's administration. And finally, in Southern Africa, Eswatini is ready for the EFCFTA guided trade initiative. It's ready to trade under the EFCFTA rules. Let me take you to the North African economies, where Moody's has changed the outlook for 5 Egyptian banks to negative. That's not good news for Egypt, by the way. President Al-Sisi, however, is bemoaning, talking about the crunch of foreign exchange, saying that the country is facing FX scarcity because it's spending so much money on fighting terrorism, as well as issues around expenditures for critical social amenities such as electricity and other things that are paid for that are provided in dollars, but being paid for by citizens in local currency. The president says he's expecting things to ease off anytime soon, but is asking all Egyptians who are abroad to come together and ensure that the current currency stabilizes and there's a further increasing flow in foreign exchange. Tunisian President Kais Saied is appointed a new Minister of Economy and 2 others. That ministry says it wants about $70 million EBRD loan for Folders Steel and Iron Company. That's to raise that company up and make it very critical as part of Tunisia's economic game changer. In the meantime, Ento Capital of Dubai says it's committing $200 million to hotel project in Morocco. Morocco still stands as that gateway for huge tourism inflow into Africa, right there at the northern corridor of the continent. And that's your Frontier Opening Bell this Thursday, the 25th of January. I am Bosun Amafaya. I'll see you soon. Have a great day.